Hey, welcome to Riverfront Territory. I'm Trent Rosecrans. I am a senior writer at The Athletic. I've been covering the Reds for, perhaps longer than I should, but, that's up for somebody else to decide. Uh, my co host, the great Danny Graves, Reds all time saves leader, is not here today. He's been not feeling well, so if we can all send our positive vibes to the reason anybody would watch this or would want this on video. But hey, kids these days, I don't understand the all video stuff. Sorry, my background is completely boring. I'm in a hotel room here in Orlando. Uh, you can see the light, but yeah, it's sunny Orlando. Uh, it's nice. Apparently, it's not so much at home, and I will find that out on tomorrow, Friday, when I come back. But we're here for the winter meetings, which finished up yesterday. And sorry about the timings of the shows that we didn't get quite enough in, or we didn't get one in. I was hoping Danny would feel a little better, and also winter meetings are a little chaotic, and there was chaos. So not that it was chaos that anybody who follows the Reds was hoping for. We did get a Zoom of Kyle Schwarber and his new team, but sadly for Reds fans, that was not the Reds. It was his old team, the Phillies. And, okay, here's the thing. I know a lot of people are disappointed, and I 100% get that. I know Nick Kroll, I know Bob Castellini, Phil Castellini, the whole Brad Matter, just on and on. Everybody thought this guy was the perfect fit because he kind of was. Um, but he was the perfect fit for the Philadelphia Phillies as well. And in the Philadelphia Phillies, he had a place where he was comfortable. They've been to the playoffs a lot with him, and he knew the lay of the land. He knew the clubhouse. Uh, it's one of those things where it made a lot of sense. Like I coming into this, my theory or thought was the Reds would finish second. Um, but throughout last season, you heard a bunch of noise, and most of it was John Middleton, the owner of the Philadelphia Phillies, loves Kyle Schwarber. Everybody in Philadelphia loves Kyle Schwarber, and Middleton wasn't going to be outbid. And I he wasn't outbid. Uh, it is all right. So often, like I always say this with manager of the year. Manager of the year is not. It's a tough job to vote on that because we don't really know. Um, I talk sometimes. I say like I'm in the clubhouse most every day, and I still don't see 80 to 90% of a manager's job. There's a reason they're called managers and not coaches. Well, there are historical reasons, but also they're managing people more than they are, and games more than they're coaching. It just is the nature of baseball with 162 games, professional players, etc., etc., etc. So when I voted for manager of the year a couple times, and it almost seems like it is all based on your expectations. Now, if an expectation is it's like almost seems to be a formula of what is the expected record preseason versus what the final record is, and the bigger difference that gets your manager of the year award. So that's why it's tough to see like Terry Francona when he was in Boston, or really Dave Roberts in Los Angeles. They're expected to do well, and that is why they don't get those awards. And I don't blame anybody who votes that way because it's near impossible, especially from afar. It's a tough vote to, or award to vote for and get right, but it's also apparently tough to get wrong. I don't know. Also, remember the manager of the year. It's voted on before the postseason. all the BBWA awards, the MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and Manager of the Year are voted on before the postseason begins. With that said, so that was the thing. It's like I I wasn't surprised that Kyle Schwarber stayed in Philadelphia, uh, because that's pretty much what I expected, and I understand and I get why people would be disappointed in Cincinnati. They made an offer, 5 years, 125 million. What was most interesting is a lot of the places when reported that like the Reds would extend. And again, I know this is maybe a little inside baseball, but when I'm reporting, I try not to report things that I don't know or to speculate. Like the Hunter Green trade rumors. They never made sense to me. I didn't report on them. You know why? Because I just didn't see them as credible. I saw them as people connecting dots and connecting dots using their information, not the information. And there's a difference. It was what some people were thrown out there, and then they're rewarded by page views. And just not how I've ever operated. And so I won't. Um, and so I reported they were going after Kyle Schwarber because they were. They met with him, and like I wrote, they did not meet or did not plan to meet with Pete Alonso, despite similar profiles, similar um, economic asks, if you will, salary asks. Uh, he then the Orioles, who matched the Phillies 5 year, $150 million offer to Kyle Schwarber, then pivoted and gave a 5 year, $155 million deal to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso was just basically what it comes down to. Um, I'm not going to spend a lot of time wooing Scarlett Johansson because I just don't see a world in where Scarlett Johansson goes, you know what? This guy makes millions on SNL's funny and I guess handsome. He's a fine looking fella. That Colin Jost. But like that's there. Like I'm not beating that. Pete Alonso wasn't gonna look at Cincinnati. Maybe on a 1 year. What Scott Boras uh, coined the term pillow contract, but he had that last year. He was looking for long term, as was Schwarber. Schwarber at 33 was not going to take a short term deal. And just because he said at the All Star game when asked if he'd ever want to play for Cincinnati, he said, "Oh, yeah, sure. I would love to at some point in my career. I think that would be great." That didn't mean it was going to be immediate. And again, when dots are connected and leaps are made uh, in logic without fact, again, not something that it's not something I try to influence either my thinking or my reporting. So with Schwarber was basically a unicorn, the high priced free agent looking for a long term deal that would consider Cincinnati as a market. And not only that, it is a time in the Reds, uh, let's see, contention cycle, if we're still talking about those kind of things, where it does make sense. I mean, like it would be joining a team that is coming off a playoff appearance that appears to have the pitching to, especially the starting pitching, to really kind of, how do I put this? To contend, to get back to the playoffs, and the type of starting pitching that could advance in the starting playoffs. Hunter Green now has you have Hunter Green, you have Nick Lodolo, you have Chase Burns, who's only going to get better. These guys are getting better. Ellie De La Cruz is still very young and getting better, improving. You have a young core. And that was one of the things that they would sell to Kyle Schwarber, in that, you have a chance to really be the final piece in bringing a championship home. And with an offense and adding him to the offense, I really think it would have helped. This team would have been better. I mean, you just can't deny. On paper, they would look much better than they have. So again, it all made sense except the final bit with free agency. Um, the the players aren't free. you know, you can look around at so much of the deals that have been made in the last couple of years. Shohei Ohtani is not free. None of these guys are free. We're talking a lot of millions of dollars. And um, when these guys go, they're looking out for not only themselves, their agents, and the future. I mean, there is really a bit of this where if you take less, the union doesn't like that because you are setting a new precedent. And that's understandable as long as we're under this current economic model of the game. It makes sense. If you're a player, you want to not only get yours, but you want to make sure that the guy behind you gets his. And it, it it's it doesn't sound sexy, but that's capitalism, and this is a capitalist endeavor. If you want socialism, go to the NFL, and that's great. I listen. You're not going to hear me complain about that. Um, so it is basically what it comes down to. Free agencies aren't free. Free agents aren't free, and they have agency. They get to pick where they go. And yeah, would you hope that the Reds would at least match the Phillies offer? And had they done that, maybe there's a chance. I really think, or did 151 million. That said, that has to come from ownership. you know, Nick Krall, Brad Matter, those guys would have loved to offer 175, and for Bob Castellini to say, okay, we're going to give you this budget of 115 and 120 unless you can get Kyle Schwarber. And if you can go after Kyle Schwarber, we will go up to 130, 40, whatever it may be. That didn't happen. Nick Kroll, if the Reds got Kyle Schwarber, it wouldn't be what they have on the books right now, plus Kyle Schwarber. No. You would have to find money elsewhere, and whether that's really the easiest place to do that, because they don't have a ton of long-term deals. The easiest place to do that would be maybe dealing the three free agents, or free agents to be, the guys in their last year of arbitration. Those arbitration numbers aren't done yet, so that makes a lot of these things difficult. Had Kyle Schwarber decided to go to the Reds, the first easiest one would be Gavin Lux. You have a redundancy there, left-handed bat, DH mostly for Lux, and probably exclusively for Schwarber. So that's $5 million right there. That's what he's projected to make by MLB Trade Rumors, who does a fantastic job on the projections for arbitration. And then you go and look at who else is going to make some money in arbitration. Then you have Tyler Stevenson, who will be a free agent after next year, is going to get, I think it was 6.9 million in arbitration, that was predicted by MLB Trade Rumors, which is still another chunk of change. So you add those two together, you're around 12 million extra that you're moving around. Or also, the Reds could, and this might make the most sense because of their depth in the pitching and starting pitching, to trade Brady Singer, who was acquired last year in a trade and has one more year left under team control. MLB Trade Rumors has him at 11 million. So you add those up, and that's 22 million that they find in the couch cushions. So yeah, so like that was what's going to have to happen. Um, while some people took these talks and just assumed that it meant they were going to add and they would reach for Kyle Schwarber but wouldn't reach for anybody else, Nick Krall is given a budget. And, you know, he was trying to work on that. And ownership was not willing to go beyond that budget. And so, like everyone else, Nick Krall thought this was a good fit for the Reds. And Nick Krall would want to do what he did. It just didn't work out because Kyle Schwarber looked at everything involved, including $25 million more. It's funny because, like, when we talk about this in baseball, oh, just $25 million. Like, it's nothing. If anybody has $25 million that they think is nothing, send it to me, and you can convince me that it is nothing by giving me $25 million. I'm open for business, baby. Hey, $25 million, you'll hear from me as much or as little as you want. You want me to go on an island? I'm cool with that, G. If you want me to continue working for $25 million, is that a thing? I can work for a $25 million salary. You want me to just jump out this window? 25 million? Well, depending on who gets it. We'll see. Uh, so yeah, like that's kind of where it is. Now, this team does need an offensive upgrade. There are, the easy, and I'm not sure it's right thing to do would just be stand pat and say, hey, Matt McLain should be better because he's coming a year off that shoulder injury, and that is an injury that takes at least a year. Not just post surgery, but another year. I've had multiple players tell me that how hard it is to come back from shoulder injuries for hitters. Tommy Pham, Joey Votto. You just look around and look at Eugenio Suarez. His last year was the year off shoulder surgery with the Reds, and then he went and he became a Eugenio Suarez again. And that's great. And quite honestly, I can see that as a guy who comes in and is a DH for the most part. Um, Gino loves Cincinnati, and that is something, where Kyle Schwarber is going to take that meeting. Would Pete Alonso take a meeting? I don't know. Um, and quite honestly, I think it's not that they didn't try or ask. Um, you ask around first, and if it's going to be a waste of time, why waste your time? And listen, I don't think Pete Alonso was coming here regardless, so it just didn't make sense to do that, to like even go too far down there. You do enough to see where it's going to go, and at some point you just got to go, all right, not for me, let's go, let's focus on something else, put our attention elsewhere. And this organization's focus was on Kyle Schwarber, and like, what team wouldn't want Kyle Schwarber? But there are teams that would want him, but weren't gonna pursue him because it just wasn't that quite right fit, or they didn't have a chance. And he ended up back with the Phillies, which is what most people expected anyway. Most people outside of Cincinnati. Um, I've been a little surprised by just how like crushed some people are, because it did look great on paper, but it's it's baseball. It just doesn't work that way. And the the Phillies were always the favorite. The Reds were the favorite if he went anywhere else. And they may have finished second. He wouldn't get into it, and that's because that's Kyle Schwarber. He is actually, by all accounts, a stand-up dude who is not going to make waves. He is beloved in that Phillies clubhouse. He and Bryce Harper um, kind of rule that Phillies clubhouse and set the tone. And especially with JT Realmuto, also as a free agent for the Phillies, that's important to that franchise. That franchise does not want to be um, like, I think there are franchises who build up and have some cycles where they know they're going to be good for a little bit. That's where the Reds are right now. You know, they kind of feel like from now to maybe 2029, basically the length of Hunter Green's contract, they've got a shot and they want to go for it. But there's still limited resources, as these are not unlimited resources. So that's where they are. The Phillies are a team like the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers. Um, if they were run as they should, the Cubs, that that should always be. I'll throw the Braves in there. Honestly, they they should always be in contention and looking to supplement and keep steady. Whereas teams like the Reds, even though it's not that tear down rebuild thing isn't as common anymore, and it's kind of that time has passed, but you still have lower times, especially with young players, until you come on the come up. And I think the Reds are still there. And having a guy like Hunter Green, potentially Chase Burns, there's a top of the rotation type of starter, the guy that you give the ball to in game one. When you have those type of guys, you have a shot if you get into the tournament. The Reds got into the tournament, they had a shot. I mean, they ran into the Dodgers, who were playing a different game. Like, the Dodgers don't care about, you know, results much until September, because their baseline is going to be good enough to be in contention until September. You saw it this year. Like, you know, we're before the year, everybody says, "Oh, they're going to be so good, and they're just not going to be fair." And then they, you know, they're okay. Dealt with injuries. They can slow play the returns of guys like Snell and Otani to the mound, um, and then have them ready for September and October. It's exactly what they did, and they won the World Series. It makes sense. That is how you use those resources, and that's what they did. So, yeah, I mean, that's quite honestly all of it. Like, that's just what we have. So, yeah, I think that's maybe tomorrow. Sorry we didn't get this out until late. But was hoping to get Danny on, and hopefully he is better next week and is getting rest this week, because y'all know, Danny's great. He's a one of my favorite humans in this business, and I am thankful to call him both a friend and a partner in this. So let's all give our well wishes to Danny Graves, and I'll try to be back tomorrow and kind of wrap up where the Reds sit at this point. Um, so yeah, so this is kind of a different episode, and I apologize that it's just me, and especially to you people on video. Man, I am so old that I don't watch podcasts on video. I just do audio, so I don't get it. But hey, you want to look at me for a half hour and then gouge your eyes out? That's up to you, man. I got nothing for you. So, but before you do that, if you could subscribe to Riverfront Territory, rate and review us. If you're going to be nice. I'm fragile at the moment. So just be human and nice, because I could really use it. So yeah, this is Riverfront Territory. It's part of the Foul Territory Network. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can subscribe on whatever your podcast um, application of choices. I'm actually thinking of switching right now, so that's fun. But yeah, so we're always here, hopefully twice a week during the off season, 3 times during the season, and it should just be me tomorrow. Sorry, but Danny next week, and talked with Emilio Pagan. So I hopefully next week we're gonna have Emilio Pagan and Danny Graves, and I'll just get out of the way. So maybe that can help us here in having just make up for having to look at me for this whole time. So anyway, till next time, this is C. Trent Rosecrans. I am a senior writer of The Athletic, and for my co-host and friend Danny Graves, get better, buddy. This is Riverfront Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network.